How's that? Anyway, yeah. Hey, just wanted to spend a few minutes as the sun sets here on the 11th of January, 2021, just to kind of talk about the light adjusted there. What's going on? Yeah, to talk about taking stock of America, where we're at right now, and a lot of people running around with their heads cut off like chickens, spreading all kinds of conspiracy theories and this, that, and this memo and that executive order and all these other things. Just absolute insanity. And it kind of reminds me of the leftists and the Democrats who lost their freaking minds when they couldn't believe that Trump lost to Hillary Clinton. Well, I mean, that Hillary Clinton lost to Trump. Kind of confused there, wasn't I? Yeah. No, Trump didn't lose to Hillary. He beat Hillary. And they just couldn't live with it. It drove them absolutely batshit crazy, and it drove them crazy beyond belief. And they spent the better part of 5 years in treasonous action, trying to undermine the Trump presidency, the collusion between the media, the universities to distort the narrative about this country, to paint people who supported sovereignty and the Constitution is something other than what they are, patriotic Americans who support and defend the rights of all Americans. But that's what they did for the past 5 years, and they got away with it for a long time, and that's the bottom line. They did get away with it, but it's not going to be the case forever, folks. That light is just not right there. I had it right to begin with, but sorry, just trying to adjust that. But anyway, so what'll happen now for the next 5 years? Are we going to see those on the right lose their minds the way Democrats and leftists lost their minds for the last 5 years? Well, first indications are that some of us are going to lose our minds and not accept things and not deal with things as they are. But the reality is this, folks, is we've got some real serious concerns coming up for us here. For instance, we'll now see the Democrats try to bring their idiocy and stupidity to governance, bifurcating, dividing society. One of the first things they'll do, of course, is try to ensure that they have themselves what they believe to be a permanent political power base by expanding the number of states in the union, by adding Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, federal land to the state total, and perhaps even Puerto Rico. So that would be a place actually that should have gotten independence and been sent on its own way decades ago. Remember the Puerto Rican nationalists terrorists who murdered cops in New York and attacked the Capitol building? Yeah, Puerto Rico should have been cut loose a long time ago and let Puerto Rico have its own destiny. But now we're going to see an effort to try to make it a state and add 2 senators into the Senate and 2 for the District of Columbia, which is unacceptable. That's federal land. The state of Maryland, state of Virginia donated District of Columbia so that we could have a national capital. Kind of like Brasilia, the land is a federal capital, and it's a special purpose-built capital. Anyway, folks, yeah, it's a bit disturbing. So we're going to see that. We're going to see the Democrats to do that. Do we lose our minds over it? No. You just have to adjust to it, deal with it, and try to prevent it from happening where possible. We'll also see them move forward with a number of different things which are dangerous for their public, one of which will be reparations, this nonsensical story of reparations. Given the fact that the majority of white people in this country, whatever the hell white means, I suppose this is white, but whatever the hell white people is, given the majority of them actually didn't arrive in this country, their ancestors, until after the end of slavery, what role do they have in it? None. And so none of them should be on the hook for paying reparations. And the government paying money means we all pay for it. So think about that. Also, the 2 to 3 million black Africans who've immigrated here since the end of the Cold War come to the United States. Are they entitled to it? Never part of the historical African-American experience. Of course they're not entitled to it. So are you going to give these reparations based to people simply on their skin color? So a lot of people walking around who are white who have African ancestors, whose ancestors were in bondage in this country. There's a very fluid movement between groups when it comes to that. You've got people in the Melanesians who have African ancestry. A lot of folks, it was very common to move fluidly between black and white society by passing as white or passing as black, more commonly as white. But those folks have African ancestors. Do they get something? And more importantly, do I get a bonus check because 7 of my great-great-grandfathers fought in the American Civil War? I have 7 Civil War ancestors out of 8. Out of 8 great-great-grandfathers who were alive during the Civil War, 7 who were of age to fight fought for Union regiments. So do I get a bonus check for that? Do I get the profit for the fact that they helped end slavery? Seriously? William Bear Grimes fought in 30 major engagements in the Civil War, survived them all for the Maryland 7th Infantry Regiment against slavery to preserve the Union. Do we get a bonus check for that? What does that work? I have an ancestor that owned a slave. Yeah, that's right. Ooh, scary thought. That's not me. I didn't profit from that. I didn't get anything from that experience. So it's utterly ludicrous, but that's what they're going to try to do. They're going to force this down and bury us in debt and divide people based on race, because there will be a lot of white people who are angry about reparations. There'll be some black people who are angry about reparations. There'll be some white people and black people thrilled about reparations. The whole idea is to divide society, and that's what they'll seek to do, because that's what they do. That's what they do. This is exactly what they do. Leftists are like this all the time. And the distinction between leftists and the Democratic Party is evaporating. There are very few Democrats left. It's interesting to see that Joe Biden is going to push for the $2,000 per head relief package for American citizens. But Senator Joe Manchin, a Democrat's already said that he's not going to vote for it. So assuming the Republicans all vote against it, you don't have 50 votes. So that was empty virtue signaling, which was also a tactic and a trick used to get him by Biden to help Warnock and Ossoff get to the Senate so they can steal the Senate. That was a tactic he used. Absolutely, folks. Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty darn crazy the way that people behave and what they believe. So the Democrats will push for reparations. They will push for statehood. They will push for a whole lot of things. Gun control, no doubt about that. But shall we lose our mind? Shall we run around and post fake memorandums from the Secretary of State and the President claiming this and claiming that? I'd urge people to get a hold of their senses here. That really doesn't help anybody's cause. As those of us who were present and watched the unarmed is what I meant to say, the unarmed agitators who intended to get the crowd riled up and get them into their chaos that they were seeking to sow at the Capitol steps, and failed for over an hour. I stood there for an hour and recorded and interviewed and talked to people at the Capitol steps on the 6th of January before the events even started, began at 1 o'clock with Congress in session. While Trump was still prattling on with his conversation and having his long discussion back there, I'm black and I really want to be reparations. Nothing happened to me. Well, only one faith. I agree with you. It's the dumbest thing ever. It's stupidity, because it really does nothing except divide the nation. And how exactly do you go about it? It's interesting that as my point said, you do it based on skin color. You do it based on skin color. Is that really how it works? Yeah, no. Never Warned is about, what's that? Never Warned is about racism. Yeah, no, it is. It's about dividing people. That's what they want. The Democrats seek to divide people all the time. That's their goal. That's their objective. And it works for them. Identity politics works. You know, break people into little groups. And we already saw it. Joe Biden has already said that in the midst of the coronavirus, he's going to come out with small business assistance for everyone except white men. Everyone except white men. Pick a category, you fall into it unless you're a white man. Minorities, women, yada, 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 yada. Of course, he contradicts himself in that when he talks about small business. He talks about the mom and pop businesses. Well, pop is probably a white dude, so you're probably going to want to cut him out, just like we've been eliminated from all popular culture, from any recommendations for awards when it comes to music or art, and also eliminated from commercials and television programs. The only time you see white males is when they're depicted as buffoons or idiots, and no one sees the patent, blatant bigotry that takes place in that. Now, this is not a woe is me white man's conversation. That's not what it's about. The point is here to identify what the Democrats do, what they will do, and what they plan to do coming up in the next days. That's what's going to happen. Well, Brett, I saw that President Trump was out speaking, and I figured that as I was out exercising, be a good moment to have a little conversation about rational behavior and conduct as people run around and spreads conspiracy theories and this, that, and the other. The anger today is even greater than the Hillary Clinton supporters. See, the problem with the Clinton supporters is they were arrogant. They felt entitled. They felt that Hillary was entitled to that position, that it was hers, that she did her time. And it was also a gender issue for a lot of people who just have real problems with gender. They absolutely obsessed with misandry or misogyny. And so that was it all about. Don't blame Trump for attending Biden's inauguration. Well, he shouldn't attend Biden's inauguration. As I said earlier in my stream, he will simply be a distraction. After the events of the 6th, plus this acrimonious discussion about the election, the last thing Trump should do is be at the election, because if Trump goes, he'll lose. If he doesn't go, he loses. It doesn't matter, because they hate him. They're pathologically possessed about Trump. And if Trump went to the inauguration, people in Congress would boo him. There's not going to be a crowd there. It's a virtual inauguration, folks. We're not allowed to go. Americans are not welcome. Only the hoi polloi and members of Congress will be there. So we can't go. Plus, D.C.'s in a lockdown under a pretext because of this bullshit that happened on the 6th by a few dozen of clowns who broke into the Capitol building that was not defended properly, even remotely close to properly, by the Capitol Police and the District of Columbia, who failed their jobs. The mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, and the police chief should have resigned on site. The honorable thing was done eventually, but it doesn't take effect until a few more days, by the chief of the Capitol Police. He did the honorable thing, but he's the only one in the crowd. The D.C. Mayor and the D.C. Metro Police should have both resigned for their failure to heed warnings from the FBI, from the Department of Defense, failure to accept assistance, and to allow the situation to fester. And an investigation needs to be done into why police opened the doors and let 70 to 80 people walk into the building, thereby encouraging people to go in the building. Now, of course, on the other side of the building, people were breaking in and they weren't stopped. So not to diminish what happened that day, but the point here is that there's a lot more going on here that people want to talk about. From Fayetteville, North Carolina, hey, welcome to you. Hit the like button. Yeah, that'd be nice. Thanks, one and only Faith. Yeah, so back to it. So the Democrats are going to push for statehood for two places that have no business whatsoever being a state, and upset the political norms that we've had here since 1959. But we entered Alaska and Hawaii in a compromise as usual, entering two states at that time. So they're going to do it again, but they're not balanced because both of these states will never vote for the Republic. Both of them are actually cities that live on handouts and largesse, or not cities, but locations that live on handouts and largesse. Puerto Rico would fail completely without federal assistance. It's proved it time and again, incapable of governing itself. So just let it go. Let it be independent. 1/3 of the island wants to be independent. 1/3 wants Commonwealth status, and 1/3 wants statehood. Let's let the ones that want independence have their way and let it be independent. As far as District of Columbia, the District of Columbia is a federal city, and someone trying to turn a federal city into a state is absolutely ludicrous. That's unacceptable. Anyway, so there's that. So they're going to do that. They're going to try for this reparations nonsense. They're going to try to restrict gun ownership. Now, this is what I predict, and I'll tell you this right now. This is the 11th of January, 2021. Watch for this come in quick order succession, and they'll do it. They will pass legislation that will inhibit or make it more difficult for Americans to own firearms or to eliminate them. Or they'll go on this nonsense of the mythical, non-existing assault weapons. They'll get these things finally approved. They've been having erections over for decades trying to make happen. So they'll make it happen, and they'll get those assault weapons banned. Of course, there is no such thing as an assault weapon. The person shooting is the assaulter, not the weapon. But anyway, they'll get it there, and these things will be unconstitutional, but they'll become law. So we'll have to adhere to and follow the law for the time being, and then someone will hopefully do a court challenge and have the tenacity to fight that challenge and have the resources to fight against the state's actions. And there'll be a lot of damage done between now and 2022. There are a lot of Republicans running around, it's okay, we'll take back the House and the Senate in 2022. No, you won't, folks. Not with this corrupt system of mail-in balloting. You'll never take back an election again. If people can simply violate the law at their whim, like the governor of Pennsylvania, the executive branch, and the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, which simply decided because Joe Biden was getting his ass kicked and he was sitting in his basement hiding and not campaigning, that they better help him out. So in September, they decided to violate the law that was passed here in Pennsylvania in October 2019. And what they said was, okay, guess what, folks? Guess what? I remember watching a Trump meeting with that. He talked about Mason like Trump's a good father. I don't know about that one only faith, but no postmark required, violation of the law. Signature doesn't have to match that on file, violation of the law. And accepting ballots 10 days after the election, violation of the law from October 2019. But the executive branch and then the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania couldn't be bothered to follow the law. Apparently that was simply too much for them. And so they simply decided that they were going to avoid that and ignore it. And therein lies the fraud. I saw today a very disappointing article in the Wall Street Journal by Mike Phillips, a journalist whom I know personally, he's a war correspondent. He interviewed me in Liberia, and we talked about rebuilding the armed force of Liberia. He's in my experience, been a very objective journalist. Very disappointing piece. Instead of talking about what's happening in this country, they focus on some lunatic who went in there, some loopy guy, and talk about him and try to paint 500,000 people who went there and 75 million people who voted for Trump or voted against Biden. That might be an argument many of us have. We voted against Biden, as if people are not stable or something like that. That's very sad. I really, really am disgusted to see that in the Wall Street Journal. The Fox News just had a clickbait story in which they talked about They basically put a headline out there to scare Americans into thinking there's violence being planned for all the state capitals, and they know all about it. Well, what did you know about the 6th of January if something was going to happen? By the way, did the Capitol get burned to the building, to the ground? No. Didn't notice the Capitol getting burned to the ground, folks. That didn't seem to happen. No looting, no statues knocked over, no paint sprayed all over national icons and treasures. Yeah, property stolen, damage done, law enforcement officials threatened and put in jeopardy. One died as a consequence of the melee. Yeah, that is all true. But folks, this didn't even remotely resemble Minneapolis, Portland, Seattle, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Washington, New York, none of those places, Atlanta. No, not even remotely like that. So it's disgraceful to see the media paint these false narratives. Look, yeah, I'm on a soccer pitch. That's right. It's disgusting to see them paint this as something that it's not. Now, here's the point I want to make, folks. Earlier today, I looked, and over 40,000 patriotic Americans had already submitted video and photographs of events at the Capitol to the FBI. But there's virtually no mention that. That's not a headline anywhere. No one's talking about 40,000 people who turned in these lawbreakers and criminals. No. And provide evidence to help prosecute these folks. Nothing about that. Not a damn thing about that. And by the way, how many tip lines did the FBI put out for Minneapolis, for Portland, for Antifa, which, by the way, is a domestic terrorist group, unlike the fraudulent claims of Sleepy Joe, Creepy Joe, Jim Crow Joe Biden, who will soon be president, President-elect Joe Biden, who claimed that Americans who gathered on the Capitol steps were domestic terrorists. He's full of it. He's absolutely full of it. And that sort of language is not helpful. In the same article I read from the person I know from the Wall Street Journal who wrote that article about, not about the 40,000, but the other article about the loopy dude who was misbehaving. In that same article, he talked about the Capitol building. Anyway, I'll get off that for now. But what's this? Chris preaching the truth as always. Well, I'm trying, Calpy. I'm trying, but people were being shut down, honestly. And the problem is that this lunatic behavior, this out in the deep end nonsense. Why is Schwarzenegger against Trump? But it's because Schwarzenegger is a Bush family ally. If you didn't know that. He was made the president's representative for sports fitness back when George Herbert Walker Bush was the president. He has long been very close to the Bush family, and as a consequence, he is a never Trumper. And I don't really care, but what I do care about is Schwarzenegger's lost his freaking mind. He's disgraceful too. By the way, Kelly Loeffler, who withdrew her objection to the election results, is a coward, and she got what she deserved, losing in Georgia. No, that's not because I'm a Trump fan. I'm not a Trump fan. That's because I believe in objectivity. She objected to, yeah, there you go. Tony saying fake FBI memo leaked. I don't know if it's fake, but an FBI memo leaked, or Fox News reports that. And the story they highlight is that there are going to be violent demonstrations. Now, they say before, during, or after the inauguration. No one knows. So this is going to be a pretext to take away freedom. That's what's going to happen here. Sound is really good, Chris. What phone are you using? This is a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. I've had it for going on 4 years. It's probably close to its last leg, so it's doing pretty well. But I got off track again. Sorry. I'm standing out here. It's below freezing temperature, and I'm trying to get this stream out while I still have sun. Trump walked right into it. They're determined to finish him. Yeah, he did. Trump did. He absolutely did. As I said at the time, and I remain true to the statement, what Trump should have done if he wanted to talk on that day on the 6th is walk out, and here you go. This is Donald Trump's speech. This is what it should have been. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all arriving here. I appreciate Patriots. I'm sure many of you came today to walk to the Capitol steps and stand in front of Congress to be seen and let Congress hear your voice that you're unhappy with the results of the election. Listen, we've got some real challenges coming up ahead of us. And in the Congress today, members of the Republican Party and others may object to the election results in several states. There are 4 states that violated their own election laws and have put this election in dispute. I want to thank you all for coming out, and I urge you to peacefully assemble and have a good evening and go from there. There you go. There you go. Oh, thank you, Brett. The super chat got me back on track. The mail-in ballots are fraudulent. The whole concept is fraudulent. You have to have identification to collect your medication from a chemist or a pharmacy. You have to have identification to cash a check or to do a financial transaction in a bank. Oftentimes, merchants request photo identification to use a credit card. You must use photo identification to do virtually everything in life. yet somehow it's racist, or it is trying to, what is it, hinder the vote? Is that what they call it? Reduce voter turnout, um, you know, because you expect someone to have an ID card. Bull. What's that? Somebody just agree with me. Oh, Peter. Hey, Peter, in New Zealand. It's a lot warmer there than here. You got summer. It's also daytime there. Here it is coming up on nighttime here. I did this because I was hoping you guys would like the background on how well it's turning out there. But that background is that kind of pink sky there. Hopefully you like that. Yeah, I'm on a soccer pitch. But anyway, yeah, so that's what Trump's speech should have been. And he should have said, go peacefully, behave yourselves. Let's show people what properly is done. That's what he should have done. But Trump can't help himself. Like many times, Trump walked right into it. As I said, folks, he was an hour late. He blathered on for a long time, and I left. I went to the Capitol because I went to D.C. to record the events there for my viewing audience, and also because it's a historic day. This will be the fourth time this century that an election has been objected to on that date, but you never know that from the press. See, this is the problem with the dishonesty of the press, folks. It's so very, very irritating and annoying. The press doesn't bother to tell you that in 2000, 2004, and 2016, all of which were Republican victories, by the way, George Walker Bush twice, and then Trump in 2016, each time the Democrats sought to object to the election results that January after the election. Yeah, that's right, folks. And they actually pulled it off once in 2005 when Senator Barbara Boxer filed objection to Ohio's results being certified, as did Representative Stephanie Tubbs of Ohio. They weren't called treasonous. They weren't accused of inciting riot. They weren't accused of horrible things. The Wall Street Journal, of all publications, accuses people being unpatriotic, senators, and idiots in the Senate, and of course that blowhard Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who cares what she has to say, but people in the Senate actually calling for them to resign. Chris Coons is a jackass. He's a senator from Delaware who's sitting in, Joe Biden's permanent seat that he occupied for nearly 4 decades in Delaware, a state with 6 people, so it's pretty easy to elect a senator there. I'm just saying. Sorry, Delaware, but it's true. There's nobody in your state. It's the smallest state around other than Wyoming. Anyway. Yeah, so Chris Coons calling for the resignation from the Senate. Screw you, Chris Coons. You're a jackass. The left is feeling their oats. They're trying to get rid of any dissent. Anybody speaking lawful speech is being demonized and criminalized now. It's absolutely insane. USA Intelligence Services, what's that? Aren't given enough credit. They know 1,000 times more than we know. Well, yeah, but it just depends what we're talking about, what the topic is here. But anyway, so agree with, what's that? Agree with what? Louise from South Africa, you tell the truth. Oh, okay, thanks a lot. I appreciate that, guys. Sorry, I just blocked the screen there for a second. Ooh, that pink and purple starting to come in really good. But anyway, this is a pretty good phone, isn't it? I mean, of course, my hands are freezing. I'm holding a selfie stick here in the cold. I mean, it goes to show the moral of the people who are always Trump's side. What's this? The moral or morale? The moral of the people who are on Trump's side left might as well wear white hats with holes in them. Matthew, who is that? Matthew Grotto. Well, no, I disagree. It's not Trump's side, as I said many times in the past, but not so much on my stream because I didn't want to disrupt and influence elections. But the bottom line is that Trump hijacked the Tea Party agenda, and people needed someone, and our option was Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, and someone who said they're going to fulfill the Tea Party agenda. Well, he made a good stab at it. He did some good stuff, but he didn't fully take it. So a lot of people run around talking now about how this is all going to fall apart, how the right is in disarray, the Republican Party is dead. Well, the Republican Party's been dead man walking for the better part of 3 decades. They've been lost since George Bush decided that he didn't really want to run for re-election, even though he was on the ballot, and turned in a useless campaign against Bill Clinton in 1992. The Republican Party's been dead since then. Just look at who we've put up for candidates, folks. 1996, Bob Dole. Nothing against Bob Dole, an American hero, and a great senator from Kansas, but a candidate for president, useless. He just got the nod, just like Hillary Clinton, because it was his turn. That was 96. In 2000, we put George Walker Bush up. That was the best we could do. Are you serious? 2004, he gets the renomination. 2008, we put John McCain. I guess it was John's turn. He was a useless candidate, too. He submerged and submarined his own campaign late in the campaign when, like an idiot, he and Obama, both senators, he runs off and says, I'm going to D.C., I'm suspending my campaign, and I'm going to fix this. I'm going to save us from the financial crisis. People are like, what the hell is he talking about? He's one senator out of 100. What is he doing? He's not even the president. So he tubed his own campaign. And then Mitt Romney, the guy is a black supremacist. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. He hangs out with BLM. Mitt Romney, give me a freaking break. That's the best we could do in 2012. We gave away the White House in 2008. We gave it away again in 2012. Obama was easy to beat in 2012. You just had to have somebody stand up and talk about America and talk about the truth. The things that Donald Trump said in 2016 should have been said in 2012. Barack Obama would have been obliterated that election. As it is, his election vote and his everything dropped by a massive margin. He lost millions of votes. He was wildly unpopular and barely got back in office, only because we ran somebody against that was clueless. And then the best we could do in 2016, I'm not turning on Trump. I'm not for or against Trump. But Trump was the best we could do? No. Ted Cruz was a far better candidate, but he's not attractive, and he didn't have the gravitas that Trump had. He also didn't get the $1 billion of free advertising that the networks colluded to give Donald Trump. So there you go. That's kind of what happened, folks. These are the best we can do. There are some really talented Republicans out there, really talented Republicans, but they are not. Jim Jordan, there's a good one right there. Ted Cruz is another. We got plenty of other good Republicans out there. I am only recently a member of the Republican Party. It's a recent development, but the party has been dead for a long time. But as I mentioned, the reason I became a member of the party was so I could vote in a primary. That's what it was all about. Anyway, folks, as the sun falls here on the 11th of January, I just want to ask people to calm down, take a deep breath, stop breathing the ether and listening to a memo came from the Secretary of State. He resigned because you're being played by people on the left and people on the right. Don't let people play you. Don't let people play you. What was a $2 million small loan? What are you talking about? Had just like a Trump for long, but when he became president, I didn't understand why people hated him, so then I became a fan. Well, exactly. You know, people treat him so poorly that you couldn't help but become his fan because of the nonsense that was going on. Anyway, yeah, I don't get it. How people are just so blind and just so obedient, and so. Anyway, folks, but stop with the tinfoil hat stuff is what I'm asking people. There's no need for tinfoil hats. Let's stick with reason and with good judgment, and things are going to be difficult. Trump did care about it. He does care about America. That's what's amazing. Joe Biden doesn't care about America. All he cares about is dividing America. What has he already said? He's going to destroy the NRA. He's already said that. That's the first thing he said. 5.5 million Americans are members of the NRA. I'm not a member, but 5.5 million Americans are members of a lawful agency that teaches gun safety and teaches safe hunting practices, and he wants to get rid of them. So that's the first thing that Joe Biden did. The next thing he did is he called 500,000 Americans domestic terrorists because he's an idiot. That's the second thing. Now he's come out and say that, oh yeah, we're going to save and support small businesses, but only those owned by minorities, black people and women and disadvantaged people. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? You keep breaking people into tiny groups. We're all disadvantaged. There's only 38% of the population are white men, so I guess that makes us disadvantaged because we're not the majority. Stupidity. This guy is a jackass, but he will soon be president. He will soon be president. Anyway, just laugh at the Joker, just laugh. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, but yeah. So that's kind of where we're at. I just wanted to get, talk. My feet are freezing now standing in this cold pitch out here, but I just wanted to share this with folks and just take a deep breath. It's going to be painful. There's a lot of bad stuff going to happen with the law. These will be immoral and unconstitutional laws will be passed, but they will be the law. So you have to obey the law whether you like the law or not. And then you just refute the law in the courts, and hopefully the courts aren't captured. But I'm not so convinced the Supreme Court's not captured. I mean, how in the hell do they not take the Texas case? How can they say Texas doesn't have standing? By the way, for all you idiots and liars and those in collusion with the mainstream media who keep saying there's no evidence of fraud, there was no evidence of fraud, all the cases were dismissed, that's two separate topics. All the cases dismissed has nothing to do with there's evidence of fraud. No evidence of fraud has ever been submitted in a court of law because they won't take a case. That's a different subject. Not taking a case doesn't mean they weren't taken on merit. There were cases not taken because they claim people didn't have standing. That's very different than not having merit. So keep that in mind, folks. Do you see the North Star? I do. I also see an aircraft flying overhead very slowly. It's a prop. You might be able to hear it right now if you listen carefully. It's kind of an overcast night, not back in the direction I'm looking at, but the rest of the sky's got a lot of clouds, so I don't see many stars, but I do see the North Star over that direction there. It's over that way. Anyway, folks, I'm going to call it at 30 minutes here because my feet are freezing. I need to walk around and get some blood back in my legs. And also, I'm getting kind of hungry, and you're not supposed to be in the park after dark, so I'm going to have to vacate the park and walk around a residential area. Anyway, Trump is far from a perfect human, but he's fighting for all Americans. Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely true. Anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. I had a couple really long streams earlier today, but but just trying to get some exercise in out here now. And so, yes, you keep a record of this, mark the date. You did catch me on a soccer pitch, but it's also a football pitch. Proper football, not soccer. Anyway, so God bless and have a good night, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate support for the channel, and we'll see you tomorrow on Chris White Africa. Thanks for tuning in. Give me a like, please. 32 likes. Smash that up to 50 if you can. Thanks a lot, folks. Good night.